pouco de alongamento aqui para iniciar o treinamento. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Aí gira o braço. Dois, três, cinco. 1, 2, 3, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Aí, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Embaixo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Coloca o cotovelo no chão. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Isso. Lateral. Cabeça no joelho. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Outro lado. Cabeça no joelho. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dobra as pernas. Olha pra cima. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Outro lado. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Puxa aqui. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do outro lado. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basta as pernas. E 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pro lado. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Outro lado. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Frente. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Abriu. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Deita atrás. Lateral. Outro lado. Muito importante alongar a coluna, as pernas. Gira o tornozelo. 2, 3, 4, 5. Puxou. Esticou. Outro lado. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Puxou. Esticou. Borboleta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Coloca o braço. Alonga a articulação do ombro. Outro braço. O corpo tem que estar todo mole. Bastante relaxado. Ao contrário. Ao contrário. Coluna agora. Longa. Atrás. Aí vai levantando, ó. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A respiração é muito importante no alongamento. Ombro. Ok. Agora.
Now I will demonstrate how to set up a strike using a fake punch. It is very important for you to remove your opponent's lead hand so that you can land a clean punch.
Porque é muito importante você tirar a mão da frente do oponente.
When you push his lead hand to one side or the other, it clears a path for your strike. This is very important. For example, I push his hand aside and enter with the punch.
E entra o meu golpe.
I push it aside and enter with the hit. I push his hand aside so he cannot defend my strike. I open and enter with my punch. This hand movement is very important.
Quer dizer, essa trocada de mão é super importante.
I hit and enter with my elbow. I use the fake punch to open a path for my second strike. I will show you one more time. One more time. I always touch his arm and clear it out of the way.
O braço abre o caminho para o seu golpe.
Now I'll show Gyakizuki. This is a straight punch, and like I always say, straight punches are hard to connect with. So here I set it up with a low kick to the inside of my opponent's leg. It's not that you can't connect with a straight punch when you throw it by itself. It's certainly possible, but it is more difficult because your opponent is waiting for the punch. When you set it up using another strike such as a kick, it draws your opponent's attention away from the punch. So in this case, I use a kick to set up my punch. I kick to the leg and then follow up with the cross. One more time. Remember, your guard hand should always remain high. When I kick my opponent's leg, it isn't hard. I just touch his leg to draw his attention down to the lower half of his body, and then I land a punch to his face. Now I will enter using my lead hand, a technique called Kizamizuki, or the jab. Just as I did in the previous technique, I use a kick to the inside of my opponent's lead leg to set up the jab. I throw a low kick to pull his attention downward, and then I throw a jab to his face. It's also very important to hit and then exit. Notice how I throw the jab and then move off to the side. If my opponent were to throw a counter strike, I would be out of the way. To increase your chances of landing the jab, you can also move your opponent's lead arm to the side prior to throwing the jab. Now we'll demonstrate a technique where you throw a kick to your opponent's back leg, but instead of pulling your leg back into your stance, you drop it down to the mat and change your stance. Now your lead arm is in the back, allowing you to throw a powerful punch. So you throw a low kick to the outside of your opponent's lead leg, drop your foot to the mat, and then enter with the left cross. You have two options. You can throw the first strike like a fake to draw your opponent's attention downward, and then follow up with the punch. Or you can throw the kick hard so that it causes damage, and then enter with the punch. It is up to you. The first method is faster, but in the second method, your kick is more powerful. It's very important not to throw the kick like this. You always want to keep your body erect and use your hips. Now I show a kicking combination where I step laterally. This allows me to remove myself from my opponent's line of fire and obtain a dominant angle of attack. I throw my first kick to my opponent's leg to drop his focus low, and then I finish with a high kick to his head.
Movimento normal. Sempre saindo da direção, isso é muito importante. Pouquinho mais rápido.
Moving to the outside of my opponent's lead leg to obtain a dominant angle of attack. A little faster now. A little faster now. Once more, exiting to the outside of my opponent's lead leg, and then kick.
Saindo para a lateral, para entrar num ângulo que ele não possa ver o meu chute. Então eu chuto, caio para o lado e chuto aqui de novo. Mais uma vez.
A little faster now. Now we'll show knee dungaree. Again, you will do 2 kicks in a row. So you throw the first kick, and before your foot touches down, you throw the second kick. It can be a difficult technique to pull off, so it's best utilized after the first round of a fight when your opponent is moving slower. If you practice this combination tirelessly, then you will develop a feel for when you can use it in a fight. What you don't want is a lag between kicks. You want to throw one right after the other. A little faster. Slow. I touch with my first kick, and then I throw the second kick hard. A little faster now. Slow. Fast. Now I will combine some of the techniques I already showed to form a larger combination. Here you throw a kick to the outside of your opponent's lead leg, drop your foot to the mat, and throw a cross. Immediately after, you exit to the outside of your opponent's lead leg and throw a jab to his chin. So I combine 2 techniques I've already shown. Next, I conclude with a low kick. Remember, you always want to go high and then low, or low and then high to confuse your opponent.
Primeiro nisso, tá?
Now I'll show a very fast kick-punch combination. First, you throw a kick to your opponent's stomach. Normally you can kick with either your shin or the ball of your foot, but because you're going to immediately follow up with a punch, you want to kick with your shin in this particular case. So I throw the kick, and as I pull my leg back into my stance, I throw the punch. You don't want to pull your leg back and then punch. You want to punch at the same time as you bring your leg back. Notice how I use the backward momentum of my leg to generate power for the punch. Again, it is very important to throw the punch as you're retracting your leg. Both should be done at the same time. Now I demonstrate how to throw a rear round kick to your opponent's midsection and then follow up with the spinning back fist. It is important to notice that my opponent and me are in opposite fighting stances, which makes this technique possible. I'm in a southpaw stance, meaning my right foot is forward, and my opponent is in a standard stance, meaning his left foot is forward. So you want to throw the kick diagonally, but instead of pulling your leg back into your stance, you circle it around your opponent's body, plant your foot to the outside of his lead leg, and then continue with the rotation and throw a back fist. Medium speed. Pass and turn. A little faster. Same movement. Exiting a little faster. Now I show a front kick, Maigari, followed by a jab. With the front kick, it is very important to elevate your heel towards your buttocks. So, front kick, and then the jab. You can follow up with another hit if you like, but these two strikes are the main combination. A little faster.
Usando a mão da frente do oponente.
It is very important not to move your shoulders before throwing the front kick because it telegraphs your movement. If your opponent sees the kick, he will defend against it. Your shoulders must stay put. So you kick, and instead of pulling your foot back into your stance, you step forward and enter with the jab. A little faster. With Maigari, the positioning of your shoulders are very important. Now I show a front kick, Maigari, followed by a jab. With the front kick, it is very important to elevate your heel towards your buttocks. So, front kick and then the jab. You can follow up with another hit if you like, but these two strikes are the main combination. A little faster. It is very important not to move your shoulders before throwing the front kick because it telegraphs your movement. If your opponent sees the kick, he will defend against it. Your shoulders must stay put. So you kick, and instead of pulling your foot back into your stance, you step forward and enter with the jab. A little faster. With Maigari, the positioning of your shoulders is very important. Now we'll show Shidanguri. This is another sequence where you do two kicks, one right after the other. You do Maigari, or front kick, followed by Mawashigari, or round kick. With the front kick, it is very important not to move your shoulders or you will telegraph your kick. If you telegraph, your opponent will see the kick coming and defend against it. So you throw the front kick with your rear leg, and instead of pulling your leg back into your stance, you drop it straight down to the mat. This puts you in close range and allows you to throw a round kick to your opponent's head. I throw the kick medium speed. A little faster. It is important that you do not lag between kicks. You want to throw one right after the other. The less time you have between kicks, the better. Now we'll show a step, followed by keikomi, or side kick, and then gyakizuki, which is a straight punch. The important part about this technique is that you remove yourself from your opponent's center line with the side step. So, you move away from your center line, throw a side kick to his stomach, and then follow up with a punch.
pouco mais rápido. Aí!
Now I show another punch kick sequence. In this one, you do a jumping front kick and then throw a jab followed by an uppercut.
Seguido de oizuki, gyakuzuki ou gancho. Pouco mais rápido.
A little faster.
Pouco mais rápido. Nigiri, gancho. Uma vez só.
Now I show a combination which involves a hook kick followed by a cross and then a knee.
Step.
Notice how I move toward my opponent while throwing the cross to cover distance. So, you want to throw the hook kick to your opponent's head, pull your leg back into your stance, step forward with the cross, and then drive a knee into your opponent's midsection. In this combination, I show how to throw a hook kick to the inside of your opponent's lead leg when the two of you are in opposite fighting stances, meaning you have opposite feet forward. Although this kick is not very common, it is a very effective technique. By throwing this strike low, you not only pull your opponent's focus downward, but you can also disrupt his balance. When you throw the kick, you want to connect using the heel of your foot. So after landing the kick, immediately follow up with a cross to your opponent's face. This combination can also be done with a little step. Medium speed. Now a little faster. You want to strike your target using your heel. In this technique, you attack the lower portion of your opponent's lead leg with a sweeping kick to disrupt his balance and pull his focus low. After accomplishing this, you follow up with a cross and then step forward and throw a jumping knee to your opponent's midsection. Because your opponent will most likely backstep when you hit him with the cross, you need to close the distance in order to land the knee. That's why you want to do the jumping knee. You must follow your opponent's backward retreat in order to land the knee. In this technique, you start by stepping forward with the cross. It's certainly all right to land with the cross, but your main goal with throwing it is to momentarily blind your opponent to your second punch, which is a hook. So you don't need to follow all the way through with your first punch. It can be a fake. As you throw the cross, it is very important that you step forward. This closes the distance and puts you in range to land the hook. So you throw the cross and then you follow with the hook. A little faster. Notice how I enter with my first strike and then exit with my second strike. After throwing the hook, I am no longer standing in front of my opponent, which makes it difficult for him to hit me with the counterpunch. Enter with your first strike, and then exit with the second strike. One more time. 1, 2. Faster. This is another technique where you begin by stepping forward with the cross. Again, your goal is not to land the cross, but to momentarily blind your opponent so he can land your second strike, which in this case is a round kick to his head. Just as with the last technique, it is important to step forward with the cross to cover distance. Notice here how stepping forward also positions my hips to throw a powerful kick. 1, 2. Fast. With this technique, you take a small step forward with the cross to blind your opponent and position your hips, and then you follow up with the kick to his face.
Mais uma vez. Solto. Pouco mais rápido.
This is a 3-strike combination. You start off with the cross, then you throw a lead hook, and then you step toward the outside of your opponent's body and throw a round kick to his head. With your first punch, the cross, you don't need to worry about hitting your opponent. You throw it to distract him from your second strike, which is the hook. You also don't have to hit really hard with the hook. Still, your goal is to distract and confuse your opponent. However, you want to put power into the kick. That is the goal of this combination, to land a powerful kick.
Pouco mais rápido.
Now a little faster. A little faster. A little faster now. In this combination, you throw a jab, a cross, and then follow up with a spinning hook kick. Your goal is not to land your first 2 punches. They are more of a fake. The reason you throw them is to distract your opponent and set up the spinning hook kick. So you throw the jab, the cross, and then turn for the kick. 1, 2, and turn.
1, 2, enrola.
Faster. The important thing is to hit with your heel on the kick. When you train with a partner, you can connect using the bottom of your foot so he doesn't get hurt. But in a fight, you definitely want to connect with your heel. Now, faster. Like I said before, the first two punches are fakes that distract your opponent and allow you to land a powerful kick.
Dois.
Now faster.
Dois.
Faster. Here I demonstrate a jab, cross, hook combination. Here I show a cross, hook, cross combination.
Cruzado no rosto, indireto no rosto.
Now I show a jab, uppercut, hook combination. The jab and the hook are done with your lead arm, and the uppercut is done with your rear arm. In this combination, I step my lead leg toward the inside of my opponent's body to make him think I'm heading in that direction. And then I quickly change my angle by stepping my rear foot toward the outside of his body. When done quickly, this gives me a dominant angle of attack and allows me to follow up with a cross, an uppercut, and then another cross. In this combination, I demonstrate how to throw a lead hook, followed by a rear uppercut. The hook is used to enter in and close the distance, and then you land a powerful uppercut. In this technique, I show how to throw two jabs, a cross, a lead uppercut, and then an overhand right. Here I demonstrate a combination that involves three very fast punches. You throw a jab, a cross, and then another jab. In this combination, the focus should be on speed. In this combination, you begin by throwing a cross and then stepping your rear foot forward. If you start in a standard stance, this puts you into a southpaw stance. With your left arm now in the rear, you throw another cross, except now it's done with your left arm. Next, you follow up with an overhand right. In this combination, you throw a jab, a cross, a lead uppercut, and then a rear over-the-top elbow. When you throw the elbow, you want to come down between your opponent's arms and connect with his face. In this combination, you throw a jab, a cross, a lead uppercut elbow, and then a rear over-the-top elbow. So with the elbow strikes, the first one goes from bottom to top, and the second one goes from top to bottom. In this combination, you throw a jab, a cross, a lead front kick, and then another cross. This combination involves throwing a jab, a cross, a lead hook, and then a rear round kick to your opponent's head. Now I show how to throw a jab, a cross, and then a spinning back kick with your rear leg. You begin this combination by throwing a jab and then a cross. Next, you do 2 kicks in a row. First, you throw a rear low kick to the outside of your opponent's lead leg. Before you drop your leg to the mat, you throw a second round kick to his head using your opposite leg. Both kicks are done back to back. One to the leg and one to the head. In this combination, you begin by throwing a cross and stepping your rear foot forward. This puts you in a perfect position to throw a knee to your opponent's midsection, and after landing the knee, you follow up with another cross to your opponent's head. As with most of my combinations, you switch between striking low and striking high. In this combination, you throw a cross, a lead uppercut, and then execute a jumping knee. The first 2 strikes knock your opponent backwards, and then you hunt him down with the jumping knee to his midsection. So in this combination, you do 2 strikes that go from bottom to top. First the uppercut, and then the knee. In this combination, I throw a rear front kick to my opponent's midsection, a jab, and follow up with a spinning back fist. Notice how when I throw the spinning back fist, I keep my opposite arm up to protect my head from counter strikes. Now we'll show a combination that is a bit more complex. I throw a jab, a cross, and then a spinning hook kick to my opponent's head. It is important to pay special attention to my footwork in this combination. In this combination, I throw a lead front kick, a cross, a lead uppercut elbow, and then a rear over-the-top elbow. So there are two elbow strikes. One goes from bottom to top, and the other goes from top to bottom. In this situation, I start in a southpaw stance and my opponent is in a standard stance. I throw a rear low kick to the inside of his lead leg, but instead of pulling my leg back into my stance, I drop my foot to the mat. Having closed some of the distance between us, I throw a cross and then a lead uppercut. In this combination, I throw a rear front kick, but instead of pulling my leg back into my stance, I drop my foot down to the mat. This allows me to close some of the distance between my opponent and me. Next, I circle my left leg around the front of my opponent and throw a hook kick into the side of his head. To finish, I throw a cross to his face. The technique I'm showing now is not very known because it is primarily used in karate. To begin, I trap my opponent's lead arm and drive it into his body, disrupting his balance. Next, I throw a right cross, but instead of punching him in the face, I shoot my hand to the side of his head. Still controlling his left arm with my right hand, I step my right leg behind his legs. To execute the takedown, all I have to do is drive into him with my right arm.
pouquinho mais rápido.
This technique works best when your opponent's lead leg is lined up with your lead leg. It makes the takedown a lot easier to manage.
Devagar.
Notice how my left foot is right in front of his left foot. This is the positioning that you want to assume because it makes it a lot easier to step behind his legs. Now I show a method for taking your opponent down. First, I throw a lead low kick toward the inside of my opponent's lead leg. My intentions aren't to land the kick, but rather to get my opponent to lift his leg to block the kick. The instant he does this, I hook my lead hand around the inside of his lead leg, place my rear hand on his shoulder, step behind him, and push him backward over my leg. By placing my hands in the right spot and pushing him backward, I trip him over my leg.
Mais uma vez devagar. Essa mão vai na altura do peito.
This is another takedown. Just as with the last technique, I fake with the low kick to the inside of my opponent's lead leg. This causes him to elevate his lead leg in order to block my kick. As he blocks, I drop my lead foot to the mat, pivot on my lead leg, and then kick his grounded leg out from underneath him using my rear leg. Notice how as I kick his leg, I also use my lead arm to help push him backward. Fake the kick, enter, and then kick his leg. In this technique, I throw a rear round kick toward my opponent's head, causing him to lean back to avoid it. Instead of following through with the kick, I plant my rear foot behind my opponent's lead leg. At the same time, I place my rear hand on his chest. To trip him over my lead leg, all I have to do is push on his chest.
Derrubando. Eu faço que vou chutar aí.
Eu faço que vou chutar aí.
Mais uma vez devagar, mostrando. Eu faço que vou chutar e entro. Um pouco mais rápido.
In this situation, my opponent and me are in opposite stances. To get the takedown, I sweep his lead leg using my rear leg. However, I first have to set up the technique. I accomplish this by throwing a cross, which disrupts his base. Immediately after landing the cross, I place my hand on his neck and hook my rear leg around his lead leg. To get the takedown, all I have to do is sweep his leg out from underneath him. It is important to notice that upon throwing the cross, I control his lead arm with my lead arm. This allows me to land the cross clean, as well as prevents him from throwing a counter strike.
Mais uma vez.
Mais uma vez.
In this situation, my opponent and me are again in opposite stances. To begin, I step to the outside of his body to acquire a dominant angle of attack and throw a jab. After the jab, I throw an inside kick to my opponent's midsection. This sets me up to sweep his lead leg out from underneath him and score the takedown. So in this combination, you're using strikes to off-balance your opponent. Then, you execute the sweep. So here I throw the punch, kick, punch again, and then execute the takedown. Again, I show you how to sweep your opponent following a punch-kick combination. Of course, you want to cause damage with the strikes, but their main intention is to off-balance your opponent and set up the takedown. Before throwing the jab, you want to step to the outside of your opponent's body and hold on to your opponent's lead hand. This makes it harder for him to protect himself. Then you strike to his chin and sweep. This technique is called the scissor sweep. It's a more complex combination, so it's best to use it after some time has passed in the fight. That way, your opponent won't be waiting for you to make an unorthodox movement. He will be more comfortable fighting you. Although the movement is somewhat simple, it must be used at the right time in a fight. If you use it at the wrong time, you could end up in a compromising position. Starting in opposite fighting stances, you want to grab your opponent's lead arm using your lead hand. Once accomplished, drop your rear hand down to the mat between your legs, throw your rear leg behind your opponent's lead leg, throw your lead leg in front of your opponent's legs, and then scissor your legs to score the takedown. Now a little faster.
Mais uma vez explicando em outro ângulo.
You want to grab your opponent's lead arm, drop your opposite hand to the mat, throw your rear leg behind his legs, throw your lead leg in front of his legs, and then scissor your legs together. Now a little faster. Now I'm going to spar with my brother Shinzo using the takedowns and sweeps I demonstrated in this section.
Queda do meu pai, pra cá, normal, meu pai. Fica com mais, não eu? Eu. Show. Tirou. Cruzou. Queda do meu pai. Não acho que queda. Fica pra cá.